Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Many of us struggle with sales, whether it's from confidence, comfort, and just not wanting to be salesy. We want to help our customers. We know we can, but we complicate the process. This podcast is designed to help professionals like you improve at sales through process, practice, frameworks, and thinking differently about what you already know. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and I'm here with Mike Simmons, the founder of Catalyst Sale. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jody.
Okay, Mike, we said you love to get questions, and I think that has prompted some questions. So I know you've got a new listener question for this episode. What do we have?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Andy Rasek, who's been on before, he was on an episode where we talked about a book that he and David Weiss wrote. And the question he sent is, I'm going to paraphrase here, but it's for companies that aren't taking a beating right now, but also are not positioned for success, meaning they may not have all of the systems and processes in place to support the kind of scale that they're experiencing right now. What are some clever and nimble revenue leaders doing right now to address that? So what could they be doing inside their organizations? So I think we can riff off that.
All right. Well, before we get to the answer, if you have a question you would like Mike to talk about on this show or a topic, it doesn't even have to be a question. You can say, hey, Mike, I'd love to know more about this. Then send it in. Mike, how can people reach out and get questions to us?
Best way to get questions, hello@catalystsale.com. That mailbox is monitored, and it's a great place to ask listener questions, recommend potential guests for the podcast. The other way, if you're looking for something in kind of real-time response, send me a tweet, Simmons_M, and that's my Twitter handle, or you could do @CatalystSale, either of those, and we'll respond to the question and maybe turn that into an interesting conversation with a couple of folks on Twitter.
All right, wonderful. Okay, let's get us back to the question, Mike.
Yeah, so for those who've kind of found this newfound success, where all of a sudden they just open the door and, whoa, everybody is worrying about or thinking about remote work or remote tools. And there's some great examples out there. I think Zoom is an example. And I don't know how well positioned Zoom is as an organization from a sales perspective. But let's just say that we've got these companies that are in a position where they've just had this success thrust upon them. And now they're realizing, oh no, we don't necessarily have all the systems, tools, and processes in place to take advantage of everything that's coming our way. What can we do? And, I've been fortunate enough to be in some companies where after major events, there was a high amount of attention put on the products or services that we're delivering, education technology, e-learning content, as people started to say, does it really make sense for us to put a lot of people on airplanes and send them out to locations to go through training? Why can't they just get trained in front of their computer? So there are times where we all go through this, where we see this spike in activity. I think the key that's really important for everybody is to not lose sight of your fundamentals. And one of those things one fundamental that we've talked about is, let's not make our problems our customers' problems. So just because we don't have the systems and tools in place to support scale, or because we've defined our sales process as you must go through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7, step 8, step 9, step 10, whatever it is, when you've got someone who has a clear problem that needs to be solved and you're certain that you can solve it as an organization, just make it really easy for them to do business with you. And really easy to do business with you could mean modifying your terms and conditions in your contract process to a very simplified order form that allows customers to manage that through their process internally pretty quickly. Another approach could be an electronic version of that form where we're getting digital signatures on the form, and it may not take the same level of attention from a redlining perspective that if you send a Word doc or a PDF doc to somebody on the other end. So make it very easy for your customers to do business with you. And one of the easiest ways for customers to do business with you is if you give them a chance to just ask some of the questions that they have. So, hey, I know we're in a period where there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of noise. You're trying to solve for whatever it is that they're trying to solve for. What questions do you have for me? and just sit back and listen to those questions. And if through those questions, you don't get to a point where you completely understand the problem that exists inside the organization, then come back and start asking some of your own questions.
Okay. I have realized I've maybe been through some of this where I've had a great month or picked up a extra client that I didn't see coming, and then kind of have to scramble and say, oh no, let's figure out how to make this work. But you can look ahead and put processes in place that work the same no matter how much things improve in a situation like this. And you used Zoom as an example because everybody's talking about Zoom, everybody's using Zoom, and things, if you're not ready for success, or maybe not success, if you're not ready for this new influx of business, it can be difficult to take them on. So I like the idea of asking customers now before it matters, or before there's all this extra business. If you ask customers before you need to know, you can put processes in ahead of time.
Yeah. And, as you go through this, one of the things you can do, like we were talking about before, is you can put that contract component in place, or you can just look at your systems to say, and ask yourself this question: how easy is it for our customers to do business with us? The piece when I was asking about the questions, it was more about, I'm in a high stress environment as a customer. I've got a lot of things that I need to do. And I don't necessarily need to hear the qualification gauntlet from the sales rep, or discovery gauntlet from the sales rep as they go through their list of who, what, why, where, when, and how questions. And you know how important those are to me. And they're critical as we start to qualify our customers and get an understanding of their story. What problem are they trying to solve? Who cares about that problem? Why is it important? When do they need to solve it? How have they attempted to solve it? These are all basic things that we want to know. But when somebody comes into an operating room and their arm is bent in a direction that it doesn't certainly belong, or they've got chest pains, that's not the point where the person at the front desk says, stand in line and we'll go ahead and ask you a couple of questions to make sure we get you registered properly. They get them in the door quickly. They triage them, organize them, in a place where they're going to get an urgent, and I'm demonstrating how little I know about emergency rooms, but they start to categorize these folks so that they take care of the problem that the patient is having right now. Take care of the problem that your customer is having right now. And one way that you can do it is you can go through your list of quick questions, and I would actually challenge you. I would say flip that around and give the customer a chance to ask their questions. If they don't have anything to say, then just ask them, what brought you here? Why are you here? If you're looking at a patient inside a hospital room and they're breathing really heavy and they're sweating, it may be because they just ran, or it may be because something else is going on. But start with those questions. I think another thing that we should be thinking about in this context of making it really, really easy for folks, especially if you're in a competitive environment where you may not be the right fit for every organization, either because of security, whatever, or because of the market that you serve. Be aware of some of the other competitors that exist in the marketplace who maybe do some things a little bit better than you, and be comfortable with directing that customer to that competitor for this short period of time. I know that sounds crazy to say turn away business, but by turning away business that's not right for you now, you reduce the challenges associated with scope creep inside your business and the load that it might have on your company, and you increase the chance that that customer is going to be successful by working with the right solution. Let's say the emergency that I've got is I need to have a pizza, and I walk into a sandwich shop and there's a pizza place right around the corner. I can't figure out a way to make pizza inside my sandwich shop. I've got to redirect. I've got to push the customer, reposition things for the customer. Remember, the customer's dealing with a challenge that they're trying to address immediately. Help them address that challenge, whether that's with you or with somebody else.
Yeah, customers remember that you served them, and there will come a chance later, perhaps. But either way, it's the right thing to do to help them with the problem they have right now. So, Mike, when we think about that, when helping the customer with the problem they have right now, it's easy if someone comes into your sandwich shop and says, I really want a pizza, and you can't do it for them, and you say, hey, go right across the street. It's on the corner. what can we do now? If it's not that obvious, what can we do to help customers solve problems? And what I'm getting at is there a way to find some of the problems our customers are dealing with right now that we may not know, that we may be able to either help them with ourselves or direct them to the pizza shop on the corner?
Yeah, I think you get back to those questions that we were talking about before. What problem exists? And, in this instance, it could be what brought you in here? Why are you contacting us? What problem exists? In this instance, because you're talking to this person, you presume that they're the one who cares about it. Why did they reach out at this point in time? It might be because somebody else in their organization told them they needed to, or it might be because they need to do something specific inside their organization. But let's gather the bits and pieces of information that we absolutely need in order to understand the problem, understand who cares about it, who's impacted by it, understand why they care about it, understand how they've attempted to solve it, and understand when they need to solve it. And if we know those things, and those are basic qualification things that we talk about all the time from a sales process perspective, if you can answer those questions well, then you're going to be in a position where you can say, okay, I understand the problem. I can communicate that back to the customer. I can validate that that's the problem they actually have. And based on my understanding of the problem, I can determine, am I the right solution? Do I have the right fit? Or do I need to point them into a different organization? Another thing you can consider, let's say you see a common set of these same problems over and over and over again. There's this trend that's evolving in the market that maybe it's a market that you never thought might be the market you would serve just because something changed in the market. But everybody from this new vertical is coming to you with the same problem. And there's something in your technology that may be able to support it. Well, at that point, it might be a market-driven pivot that you're looking at and saying, I know I created this technology to help support collaboration in the workplace, but actually what it really does really well is document different ideas for multiple folks in some way, shape, or form. And I'm struggling to think of a specific example where an idea that was created for one thing ultimately solved a problem in a completely different vertical. But I'm sure those who are listening out there have seen these instances where you apply concepts from one area to another based on market demand. I think something that's really important here is it reinforces the importance of communication inside your organization. If you're one of these companies that's hiring very fast because you've got to build scale to support new customer needs, then you're probably small enough still where you can have a high amount of communication inside there and get a sense for the kind of feedback and the information that's coming from your customer base. Take advantage of the teams that you have working with customers to gather feedback about what's important to the customer. I think another thing, just building on that, you can have resources in your organization. Let's say that you've got a team that's focused on doing outbound. So it might be an SDR group focused on doing outbound. They're cold calling prospects. And now you're seeing this huge influx of inbound. Well, kind of obvious thing that you can shift is take all of those people who are doing outbound and redeploy those resources toward supporting and managing the inbound stuff. You might need to do a little bit of training to help them better understand what questions they should be asking their customers. Remember, you've got resources inside your organization, people that you can deploy in different ways, and take advantage of that resource.
All right. This has been a great topic. Do you have any closing words for us?
Yeah, I would just summarize it by make sure that it's really easy for customers to do business with you. Think about it. 2 months ago, you were probably in this position thinking, God, I wish I had a way to get in front of more customers. Well, now all of a sudden you have that way to get in front of more customers. Now make it really easy for those customers to do business with you. Once you've made it really easy for them to do initial business with you, then make it really easy for them to deploy inside their organization. Work on your customer support and customer success initiatives, even if you have to put some extra people toward those things. So you got them in the door. Let's help make them successful as quickly as possible. And then once you've made them successful as quickly as possible, then go back and ask them, what can we be doing better? So Make it easy for them to work with you, make it really easy to implement and help them be successful, and then ask questions around what we can do better. And those customers will help you evolve. Don't delay the process just because you think you can turn a $20,000 deal into a $40,000 deal. Take the $20,000 deal in this kind of situation, get the customer in the door, help them be successful, and then grow them once they're in the door.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Catalyst Sale Podcast.